Okay, so I'll give them the Cliff's Notes is don't use text, use messaging if you can. But if you want to use text, they work the same way as emails. You can do templates. You can have them automatically sent from tasks. You can also use text in the trigger menu if you're on the upgraded scale plan. And you'll be able to send, just like you do emails, just like you add templates, texting works in here as well. So you can have a bunch of conditions and say, if this field equals X and this document exists, send this text message. Okay. So if we're not using the portal, then messaging isn't an option. No, that's not correct. You can use messaging even if you're not using the portal. We made it so that when you send a message, and let's say the buyer and seller don't have the portal or the app, it will just be sent as an email. So it will come into their email inbox as an email. When they reply, it comes right back into open to close so that you don't have to go sort through 200 junk emails. It's actually going to be right in the property and it's going to alert you that there's a new message. So it'll have a little, I think it's a little red number or something. I can't remember off the top of my head, but there's some kind of indication. All right. Can you assign a one sheet template as a default so you don't have to apply it every time? Not currently, but in the future, we may be able to do it through a trigger. We've been talking about that and seeing what the feasibility of that is. So for right now, you do have to assign them in the transactions and make sure you're assigning the right ones. Just because, you could have one sheet going to your buyer agent, you could have one sheet going to the escrow company, you could have one sheet going to the lender, all of them being completely different. What I would like to see in the future is, if it's financing, assign the lender one sheet. If it's, if we have an escrow company, assign the escrow company one sheet. If, we're representing the buyer, send this to the buyer agent, maybe a completely different one to the listing agent. So having those triggers to be able to trigger those will be really nice in the future. We just, too many projects going on right now to push that to the top of the list. Okay. Can you format email templates with HTML tags to create a table, for example? Yeah, you can create tables. Here, let me go into, just make sure you're testing those for sure. If you're going to use anything out of the ordinary on these emails, make sure you test them a couple of times before you send them out, because we do see some wonky things happening depending on, the editor and how people are bringing them in. If they're copying and pasting, a lot of times it won't work. But here, let me go into an email real quick. So you have access to whatever's in the editor for an email. So you do have the edit, view, insert. There's a table right there. Links, images. You also have the format, a bunch of different options in there, tools and tables. So you do have the table menu is here as well, plus your little shortcut stuff right here. Now, for anyone that doesn't know, whoever created this wrong, so please do not copy this one. Do not format these smart blocks like this. This should always look like this. You should never have formatting on the outside of a smart block. On the inside of a smart block, go wild. You can, yeah, they did go wild in here. So you can have this in here and that's fine, but never format the outside of a smart block, or you can get some wonky things happening to the text. Okay. But just to touch on that, you have everything in this field editor, or I'm sorry, in this editor up here. Nothing more. So, and you do have the source code here. You could bring in source code if you needed to. Some of those HTML things, you may have to bring in some source code to make it look right. All right, will we be able to connect OTC texting to our follow bus texting? No, unfortunately, the way that texting works, and we both use Twilio, and I've actually talked to the guys at Twilio about this. There's no way to mesh those together. It's similar to call action. I don't know if you're using call action over at Follow Up Boss. Same thing, has to be a different number. So you can't use the same number. It's just a limitation of the account and who owns the account. I wish that'd be awesome if we could do that. The problem also with it is, if you're using our texting number and then you go somewhere else to use a texting number that's the same and you're spamming people, like, I don't want that on our system. So like, or call action is a prime example. Call action does a really good job of scraping those numbers and actually taking out the landlines and the non-use numbers before it sends those texts, I believe. And that's how they keep their system running so well and not violating all of the texting regulations that are in place out there of spam texting and things like that. So Call Action, I know, does probably the best job of it that I've seen out there. But if you were to take our number and then go spam someone with that number outside of our system, then all of a sudden we're getting a ton of spam in our system. That's something that we wouldn't want. So, but you couldn't do it anyway. I would love to do it, but you just can't. Since selling is a multi-part process, listing under contract, is there any doc showing best practices on setting up open to close, on handling that? Probably. Ken, I've lost track of a lot of our knowledge base because there's so much in there now and so many videos, but I'll tell you the 2 ways that people are doing it, or kind of bleeds into 3 and 4 ways. But a lot of people will come in, and it really depends on how you're using intake forms. So if you're using intake forms, I personally, right now, the way the system's set up, and this is kind of may change in the future. So just take this with a grain of salt, because we are looking at ways to turn listings into closings. And the big thing about this, the reason we haven't done it yet, is the reverse process. So it cancels, and now you have all this information there that you want to keep. We need a really clean way to take out the under contract information and leave that listing the way it was, kind of in a pristine manner of when it went under contract. And being able to take out all the data that came in from a certain date and, make some kind of record of it for you and turn that listing back to the way it was, it's a lot more difficult than it sounds. And so we've really been taking our time on that one to make sure we get it right. Now, the way that I do it is I will have a intake form come in to create my listing. And then once my listing goes under contract, I just turn the status to under contract. And then I let the buyer agent bring in a new contract to close intake form. So now I have 2 intake forms, one for the listing, one for under contract. Okay. That's the cleanest way that I've found to do it. Now you do have 2, you have, 1, 2, 3, 4 South Fork. And then you could put listing on here. So if you're in here, you can, once it goes under contract, you can always change the contract title here, and you could put like L for listing or something like that, whatever you choose to do, to differentiate the 2. But you will have 2 transactions with the same information. So first intake form comes in, it's a listing intake form from the agent. Whoever signs that listing, they put in all the information, it comes in, it creates this. You put it as the contract status is pending. And then once it's pending, they have a new intake form that comes in and creates another transaction for the under contract. And then you just work it like a normal contract. That way, if the under contract version cancels, or they temporarily go off the market, or whatever the case may be, you can just change that to terminated, expired, off market, whatever it is at the time. And now your listing, let's say it's canceled, because that's a good example. It's canceled. You just change it to canceled. This goes away in your tables that you're looking at, most likely for your active listings. And then you just change this pending, even though it says peanut butter, we'll say this one pending, back to active. And now that it's back to active, you can work it just like normal. Okay. So that's the best way I've seen. Now, there are a lot of people that will have a listing and they'll come in here and they want to keep this data from the listing and they want it to carry over to the contract to close. And so what they'll do is they will come up here and they'll duplicate. And so they'll leave this as the first one and they'll duplicate this and they'll start working off of this for the under contract. Now, the problem with that is you don't get to have that secondary intake form coming in from the agent, which I think is super valuable, because that's going to trigger all of your under contract tasks, triggers, document templates, like all these all these templates are coming in based on what's happening in that intake form. So I prefer not to use the duplicate, unless, one caveat to this is, if you do have the upgraded plan and you have triggers, you can set up some of these triggers after the fact. So you could say, when I change this field to whatever, you'd have to come down and fill out a bunch of fields instead of the intake form. If you're having the TCs fill out the intake form instead of the agents. And as you fill out these fields over in this trigger menu, if you're on the upgraded plan, which Ken, I think you are or will be, just because your team size is so big, you can have in here, if HOA equals yes, bring in my HOA fields, bring in my HOA documents, bring in my HOA tasks. If it's septic, bring in my septic fields, septic tasks, septic documents, and so on. So you can do this after the fact if you're on the scale plan. It's just not through an intake form, it's through the fields. So you just have to be a little bit more organized and have a really good process in place, which I know you guys would. Okay. Ken, feel free to post any follow-ups on that. I know that's kind of a big topic, and we can definitely hit that on our meeting. I think we actually have a meeting tomorrow morning. So if you want to go a little bit deeper into that, we can. All right. Do you have an example of a smart block? I want one where we have inspections. It lists the inspections we have, radon, termite, mold, shows the due diligence. Sure. Yeah, that's an easy one. So Control S is a shortcut to smart blocks. You can also go through the regular menu. Here are the categories. So let's see. I don't even know if I have anything like that in here, but we can create a new one. So add a smart block. Let's just call it inspections. Smart block merge field. Typically what I do is just triple click, copy, Control V to paste. And now that's going to be my merge field. So if I have spaces in here, inspections, blah, 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 same thing, just triple click, copy, and then paste. And it's going to put underscores and take everything that was capital and make it lowercase so that these all mesh together. So let me just take that out real quick. Okay, so let's go ahead and add one. So what you may want to do here is you may want to say, you know, like, here are the inspections for this property. Okay. And what you may want to do here is if you're always going to have an inspection, if there's always one, then you can keep this up, you know, in the actual email, this part of it. If sometimes there's no inspections on a property, which, you know, in my case, sometimes there are none. You want to put this part in the smart block so that it only shows if this is coming in. And so down here, then you can come and say, you can make another smart block. Okay. And the other smart block might be like, and I'm not going to create all these right now, but you'll get the point. Like, I'm just going to type it like it was a smart block. So like radon, inspection, you know, home inspection, whatever. Here, let me just copy and paste these so you get the idea of how it would look. Copy, paste. Okay. So this may be the, let's say this is the regular home inspection. Let's say this one is the termite inspection. Let's say this is the radon, and let's say this is the, say it's a well inspection. Okay. So you would have all these smart blocks here stacked on top of each other. And what would happen is you could have a condition, okay, in this smart block. So in this smart block, it's just, do any of these exist? You may have a field that says, are there any inspections on this property? That condition would be, are there any inspections on this property equals yes. Okay, so that would be the condition for this one to come in. Now you would have a separate one for this home inspection, and it would be, if home inspection is yes, then bring in the wording for this smart block. And this smart block might say, you know, home inspection, and then maybe the date or something. Maybe you put a merge field for the date or however you guys want to do it. So you would have a different condition for each of these other inspections in here. So is there a home inspection? Then the wording for this smart block comes in. Is there a termite? The wording for this one comes in. Is there a radon? If there's no radon, it just strips this out and moves well up. And then if there's a well, you know, it says whatever on the well. So you have two sets of conditions on this case because you don't know which of the conditions are going to come in. So now you have a condition to bring this in, and then you have a condition for each one of these smart blocks that would also live out in that smart block menu. I hope I didn't confuse you on that because I kind of created a multi-layered, which isn't typically normal. Typically what you would have is a paragraph of information here and then say, if there's home inspection, then bring this in. And you could create it that way. You could have a separate paragraph for each one of these and just create one smart block instead of having a smart block inside of a smart block. But this really cleans it up. If you do smart blocks inside of smart blocks, what I wouldn't do is a smart block inside of a smart block inside of a smart block inside of a smart block. I would go probably 3 layers. I would say that it's going to get a little bit cumbersome after 3 layers to, if you have an error in your system, to go back and figure out where that error is. It takes a lot of time to figure out that, oh, wait, I have 4 of these I have to go check. And then I have to check the 2 in this one and the 4 in this one and the 2 in this one and the 7 in this one. It gets to be a complete nightmare when you're trying to figure out mistakes. So if you are going to have multi-layered, you know, 4 or 5 deep, make sure you're testing them as you bring them in. Test home inspection, make sure all that works together. Then add in termite and the things under them and make sure that comes in correct, and radon. Now you're still going to have issues that come up. I can't guarantee that issues aren't going to, you know, systems always get bugs. So you may still have in this case, if you're going to do the multi-layered, and sorry, I apologize for going on about this, but this is a really big point that, we find ourselves, people come and say, can you find the error in here? And it becomes a day project. And we're just not willing to spend, 2 days looking at one smart block for one customer. So the one thing I would do is shoot a video. Just setting up this system in general, I would shoot a lot of videos, what you were thinking when you created it, why you created it this way, why you did multi-layered, why you did whatever, and then just stick them in Loom or wherever you're going to stick them in Google Drive or wherever, and start making kind of a SOP book plus your thoughts on things, because it's even hard when you're setting up the system to go back a day later and remember what you were thinking. Like, why did I set this up this way and not this way? And then you're like, I can't even remember. So having those little like 30-second videos or even 15-second videos from Loom have saved my life, honestly, when setting up my own system. I did not do it the first time that way. And I struggled with why I did certain things the way I did them. So sorry to go off on a tangent, but I think that's really important to point out if you're going to create these multi-layered. And hopefully I answered your question there as well. Yeah, awesome. So we can create a smart block and put another smart block inside. Yes, you can actually do it multiple times, even though I don't recommend too many in a row. Okay. How are you coloring the address in your property table? Sure. So it depends on what plan you're on. Let me go over to the field editor, which is the hammer icon field editor. And so depending on what plan you're on, you're going to have different access. So if you're on the base plan, you can here, let me actually start from the beginning here so I don't confuse people. Okay, so if you are on the base plan, you have the ability to come in here and say, I want to make this red, and manually do that. If you're on the upgraded version, which will be the new Pro plan, which is currently the premium add-on, you will have this field editor. And when you go into the fields, it's going to say, let me go to contract status. That's a good one. Okay. So it shows all my choices in this one too. So this is a choice field, which is cool. So placeholder text, this will be the default cell color when this field is added to the property. So it would be green. You can make it like red because it's not filled in yet, or whatever your colors are, gray or whatever you want to do. Cool part comes in on these choice fields is now if I select peanut butter, it's automatically going to turn green. If I select active, it's automatically going to turn red. If I select active option contract, it's going to automatically turn this kind of peachy color. So, excuse me. So now when I come back over to, let me go back to my here, and this will be in the field column as well in your properties, which I'll show you in a second. But if you come in here to change buyer, and you pull this down, it's going to actually show you. If I change it to gorilla or buyer or seller or dual, it has its own color. So if I change this to buyer, okay, I change it, and it's going to turn blue. If I change this buyer to seller, it should automatically turn it green. So you can see how those automatic colors work. Okay. A lot of people use them for like not completed instead of, because people always ask us, can we put a field value in the field just natively? Like when I create a transaction, I want it to say not completed, not completed, not completed in these 15 fields. Well, there's no way to do that right now. So the workaround with that would be to put like gray on anything, any field that is, I'm air quoting right now, not completed. So in here, let's say, this when it's blank is just gray, you can make that happen. Or if like vacant, if I don't have anything here, then it's gray. If it's vacant, it's green. If it's occupied, it's whatever. So you can see how you can use those to your advantage, because as you're scrolling through your fields, you can quickly see, okay, green, which means seller, green means money to me, sellers listings are the best. So that's why I make my sellers green. And in my head, I don't have to look and see that it says seller. I just see contract client types green, and I automatically know that's a seller. So a lot of different ways to use that. Hopefully that was deep enough for you. If not, go ahead and post a follow-up question. On the one sheets, I noticed that business address for contacts, they show up before the business name. Is there any way I can change the formatting? Let's see. I have not seen that. So let me take a look at the one sheets real quick. And let's go one sheet templates. Okay, so on contacts, which is I think in the Sorry, I think it's in the layout. Okay, so contacts, business, personal. Okay. Actually, let me go into a property so I can actually see one in action. See if I have a one sheet in here. Okay, let's go into this test one and preview it. Okay, do I not have any contacts in this one? Of course. Okay. Let's try this one. Okay, of course, I'm not going to have any with contacts now that we need it. I may have to get back to you on that one. Actually, if you could, in another question, post your name because you're coming up as anonymous. If you can post your name, then I'll make sure to get back to you on that. Or maybe while I'm doing this, Hannah, you could just find a one sheet with a person in it and then get them the answer by typing it in.
Yeah, absolutely. I believe I have one. I mean, yeah, I'll pull up one up. Do you want me to send it to you?
No, just tell me when you can share your screen and show it.
Okay, awesome.
Okay. We got a lot of questions, so I want to make sure I get through these, not search around for an hour. Okay. Also on the contacts tab, I want to see business address when I expand the view. Is there a setting I'm missing? Okay. So on the contacts tab, I think you're talking about in a. Yeah. Oh, you want to see the business information here? Yeah, we don't show it here. You would have to actually click on, let me see if we click on, let me think about that. What I thought, or here, the office information, that should have it. Yeah, right here. So just click on this. If you just want to see one, or if you want to see them all, you can just expand it out and see all the office information. I don't know why it says office because I think we call it business. It's kind of different nomenclature. So I'll take a look at that. And
Does it show the address?
Oh, the address. That's what it doesn't show, right? Now let me see up here in the contact drawer. Yeah, it doesn't show up there either, does it? You'd have to click on the edit button to be able to see the address. Interesting. I don't think I've ever really needed the address, and so I probably don't notice, but that may be important to some of you. So we'll take a look at that and see if that's something at least we could get in like an expanded view, like maybe in a contact drawer or something. If you're needing the address, then at least you could come over here and grab it from there and copy and paste it or do whatever. I think the idea was some of those addresses get long, and not having this, it was already pretty long. So, but I'll ask development, see if there's a reason for that. Okay. Will you be able to smart block in a text tab? I'm not sure I know what that means.
Maybe using smart blocks in text.
In text message. That's
Oh, right. No, I think we removed that. I believe we removed smart blocks from texting. I believe we had it at the very beginning, but it was causing some formatting issues. And so merge fields, I believe, work. But I believe at least temporarily smart blocks are not in texting. So, but that is something on the radar. That's definitely on the board of something to look at. I've been talking to the development team about that. We just kind of sidelined it a little bit because we had some other projects we were working on.
okay. I do have an example of what it looks like when you pull on, if you pulled on a specific contact onto a one sheet,
Okay.
And the way that the address looks. Do you want me to share my screen really quickly?
Yeah, that'd be great. Do you need me to stop sharing, or are you good? Oh, you good?
Nah, I think I'm good. So it looks like here, I just clicked on two, this is a test transaction. I grabbed two contacts. I added on their personal information, business information, just so, we're covering all the bases. and it looks like it's pulling in the address above the office name.
Gotcha.
So I'm wondering if it's that
Yep.
we're referring to.
That seems like what he's talking about. So, I don't have an answer for you on that one, but if you post your name, we'll ask Dev and we can create a ticket out of it and see if that's something that we could switch, if that's important to you, for sure.
Okay, awesome.
All right, let me go back to sharing.
Go ahead and stop.
Okay. Also, how do we use Gmail labels and have different labels for each team member? Should I use one email for the whole team and then use filters to route things accordingly? Yeah, I would definitely use one email if you have it set up that way, like an info ad or a transactions ad or something like that to a custom email. It just works so much better because everybody's in the same inbox and everybody can, now that being said, everyone's in the same inbox. So that creates problems too. So you do have to have some procedures in place for, when certain people are allowed to put it in certain labels, or do you mark it important if someone else needs to look at it, or how are you using, like, for example, I use multiple inboxes in my, and I'm not going to go into multiple inboxes, but if you want to look up Gmail multiple inboxes, I have 5 inboxes in my one inbox. And so I can move stuff over to a certain label that will appear on the right side of the screen with like needs action, my important stuff. I have one for like coaching. I have one for, I need to delegate this out, things that have been delegated that I'm waiting on a response for. So there are a lot of ways in Gmail, if you can create like an info app box and have all your emails come to one. I think it's just personally, my personal opinion, and others may have other opinions on this, but for me, it makes it super clean. Everyone's in the same inbox. You use labels and you use a procedure that you come up with to make the organization happen. I use a lot of filters to put a tag on them for certain people's names. There's a million things in Gmail you can do. And that's why I don't use the open to close email inbox exclusively, because they just don't give us those options with the API for Google. So I always have the TC have a tab with Gmail open and with open to close and with, maybe 1 or 2 other things, SkySlope or whatever. And that way you can kind of keep those tabs going all day long. Going back to your label question, I would just make sure that you think through all your labels ahead of time. You can always change the label names, but it becomes a real pain in the butt when you have, 50 labels. So think about maybe a numbering system, maybe a number with a name of the label, maybe, anything to make it easier to find. When you start getting, 30, 40, 50, 60 labels in there, it becomes a little bit cumbersome. And so having that naming convention nailed down that everybody knows and everybody memorized from the beginning has helped us a ton. So, okay, cool. Let's see, different emails, anything else I need to address there? Yeah, I just think it's too segmented. And that way all the emails are coming from the same email address on these properties. Now, if you are running end-to-end, so here's the caveat, I guess. If you're running end-to-end transactions with each individual TC on your team, it may get cumbersome to have them all come into the inbox. So you may want an inbox keeper, maybe a VA on your team that sorts emails, distributes, grabs the documents from them, puts them in SkySlope or the documents tab in OTC. Maybe you have that one person that's managing the email inbox if you have more than one person. Otherwise, you're going to have really good filters and labels. I prefer to, especially with some of these businesses that I see that are only doing, I would say if you're doing like 500 or less transactions a month, you could get away with one team running all your transactions, which is the way I prefer. But most people run end-to-end, one TC end-to-end, and that's what they're comfortable with. I like to have experts in each area running certain areas of the transaction, all work together on everything. It helps when people are out. It helps when people, leave, when new people get hired. I mean, I think it's an overall better process, but that's totally my personal opinion. All right.
Yeah, and I think this was a follow-up, sorry,
Go ahead.
to a question from last week on just emails. I know you touched on using filters to route emails if you guys are using a combined inbox. One thing to keep in mind with filters is consistency in your subject line. Probably the best way to route things is by using the address in your subject line for those emails. That way you can use that as your filter parameters. So definitely pull up your email providers options for using filters if that is going to be the route that you guys go. but also just keep in mind to merge fields in your subject line to help keep things consistent for filter purposes.
Yep, I agree with that 100%. Okay, on the property table, color coding, how do we preset empty fields as gray? Sure. Hammer icon, field editor. Over to one of these and I'll just grab like file submitted date. I come down here and right here, table background. This is the default table cell color when this field is added to a property. So I can come over here and select gray. And now anytime I put that in anytime this field comes into my property, it will be gray. Unless, let me see, default. Yeah, yep. So that will be gray. And then if it's a choice field, you can have multiple colors for each choice, which is really handy as well. Okay, businesses. What's the general best case used for creating businesses? I was hoping to enter all the attorneys and brokerages I work with so I could add the business to a contact like a pre-closer and then use the business address field to populate in the email. Would this work? So I'll show you how it works. So if you're over in contacts, well, first of all, if you're over in the filters, hammer icon filters, and you create your businesses right here. So you can create businesses and they'll all be listed here. And then when you're over in the contacts tab and you're in Rick, let's say, and you come down to business and you can just apply the business. So I can say, oh, he works for, 123 title or open to close or whatever. So I just select this. And once I select it, then the contract gets updated with all that business information. So create your businesses first and then just apply the business to, you can't multiple apply, which, that would be really nice, but you can't do it right now. You have to individual apply as you're typing in these contacts. Then the cool thing is it does show you all the properties he's associated with and connections, which we talked about last week. Being able to add people automatically to the transaction every time Rick is added. If this box is checked, these are just people that are associated with him, but aren't going to be automatically added to the transaction. If this person comes into a transaction, do you want to automatically invite them to the client portal? This is on the upgraded version on the Pro plan or premium add-on currently. What role do you want to put on them? So these two things will automatically add them. So let's just say it's a team leader. This is the one use case that a lot of people use it for. The team leader wants to see all the transactions, but they don't want to create, like you're an independent TC, you don't want them in your account, or even if you're a team, maybe you don't want to pay for the team leader because all they want to do is just check in on a couple things here and there. So you come in here and you can say anytime that Rick, who's my broker or my team leader, you could have all of the agents have Rick as a connection. So in here, let's pretend this isn't Rick. Let's pretend it's Morty. And then you come down here and let's pretend Morty's Rick. You would say, anytime I add this agent to the file, I want this team leader to come in as well. Well, how do I want him to come in? I want him to come in with a team leader role, and I want him to be a team leader role in the client portal so he has access to all the information, and I want to automatically send him an invite every time that happens. So he'll just be automatically added to that client portal. And then Follow Up Boss, if anyone's using Follow Up Boss, there's some contact imports and things like that you can do with Follow Up Boss. I don't think this is released yet, but oh yeah, actually it is released. So if you're using Follow Up Boss, you can play around with this little tab as well. Okay, so don't enter the business as a contact. Yeah, if you went down that route, you may want to, I don't think we have an importer. Janet, we don't have an importer for businesses yet, do we?
Not that I know of, no.
Okay, so maybe that's something
Just
we can talk about. Maybe after FubCon and after things slow down a little bit, we can maybe, because I'm sure it wouldn't be too difficult to repurpose the contact importer as a business importer. I just don't know how much work that would be for the dev team, honestly. So not promising it, but I will run it past the dev team and see if there's any way to do an importer for the businesses. Yeah, Ken seconds that, I know. And especially when you're new and you're a big team, you got a lot of businesses to bring in. So I'll talk to the dev team about that and see what we can do. Okay, my one sheet splits into 2 pages with a big space in the middle. Was this fixed? Matthew, you're around. Do you have any updates on that one?
Yeah, it's just something that Shane, I know Shane is still looking into. it's been kind of a tricky one because it's one of those kind of hard to replicate issues. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So it is something still being investigated.
Okay, so hang tight with us. We'll keep taking a look, but for right now, you know, you got 2 pages. Sometimes, not all the time, 20% of the time. So, all right, we are out of questions, which let's see what time it is. Okay, we got 17 minutes left. If you guys want to throw some extra questions up in there, I can give you a sneak peek if you want on commissions and reporting. If no other questions come up in the next minute or so, we're going to be releasing this on a beta version, probably to a couple teams just to get some feedback, and then we will be releasing this pretty quickly on the scale plan, and we're not sure about what kind of limitations on the other plans. So. Okay, let me stop sharing for a second, and I'm going to prepare my screen. And then Gianna, just let me know if any questions come in the meantime.
Sounds good.
So messaging is going to be a big one. I showed you that a little bit ago. Messaging, if you can start to see a way or start planning in your head a way to get rid of some of those emails and text messages and things like that and send them as messaging, I think it's going to make your world a lot easier to handle with all these emails coming into the inbox, because now when they come back in, they're actually coming into the property as well. So you see this 4 right here. There's 4 messages that came.
Hey, Andrew.
Yep.
You're not sharing screen.
Oh, yeah. Get in my other one. Okay. Thank you. Okay. So here, messaging 4, it shows you 4 messages on this property. So if you go over the property screen, you'll see those as well. There's also up here, you'll see messaging coming in. You can go right over to the address by clicking on it. You can, there's so much you can do in these messaging logs, which is really cool. I didn't show you this earlier, but you can see who read it and who didn't read it. And if they didn't read it, you can ping them. You can hit it again and it'll resend it. So a lot of cool stuff coming out with messaging. But let me stop sharing and I'll show you the good stuff. Okay. Okay. Okay, sneak peek on commission. So I'm not fully done with them, but basically what's going to happen is you are going to be able to put in any widgets you want, which a widget could just be a field. So on your CDAs or CDIs or commission disbursement or whatever you guys call them, you'll have the ability to put in whatever widgets you want in here. You will have the ability to, the purchase price will come in automatically on the top level, and you can say 3.5% of that. That's my GCI. Whoop, I typed that wrong. It shouldn't be percentage. It should just be GCI. And so there's my GCI. Now I can break it down into 10% to the broker. I can break it down into the team split, and then I can break this team split down into 50 other things. And it just keeps going. It gives you ultimate flexibility on the way to split these commissions. Now, the next step will be, after we test this a little bit, will be to get the templates ready. And that way, and one thing I do want to mention is you have the ability to say, when I type whatever this is in, I want it to go back to a field. So I want it to sync to a field. You also have the ability to take a field value and sync it to the calculation. So you have 2-way sync here, depending on how you want to do it. For me, I'm going to create a commission section, go down and fill out all the information, and then have it auto populate into my template. So all I'll need is to make sure that there's a price in there for the house, and it will literally just calculate all the way down. As soon as you're done with that, you can put in instructions and you can download a CDA and you can customize this to look how you want. You're not gonna be able to see it on my screen because I'm not sharing that one, but basically, let me see if I can change my share. Let's see here. Here we go. Can you see that? Anyone?
Yep, it's sharing now.
Okay. So on here, obviously I didn't fill this out all the way, but that closing date that I had in there, the splits, and you don't have to have all this on here. You can customize it. So let me go back to the screen I was on. And what you can do is uncheck these boxes to take out certain steps or step totals so that you can only see what you need to see. The cool thing about this versus other programs is you can create as many of these commission disbursements as you want if you're on the top tier plan. So will we be able to set conditions on commissions? If referral, yes, do this. If referral, no. No, but what you can do is have a template for that. So you would have a template for there is one, and there's a template for there isn't one. So the direction we're going with this is we'd love to put this in the intake form too. So you could say, if there's a referral, if there's this, if there's that, and if these three things are true, trigger this template versus this template versus this template. So yes and no, not in the individual. We're not going to have conditions in this individual section, but hopefully we'll have conditions on the intake form someday where you can say, bring this in automatically. And then all you do is open it up. It initiates the number automatically, and then it just starts chugging down and calculating. So really flexible, really cool. We just want to make it as flexible and scalable as possible. Just in case you're wondering, there are no caps in here right now. Caps will definitely be in the future. We want to get a lot of feedback on this first and talk about what could be better in the current version, phase 1, and then we'll someday put out a phase 2. You can delete anything. You can add additional steps under this one by hitting add here. This add is going to put it under this one to split it further. So you have ultimate scalability on these splitting. Let's see, I won't be able to use this directly with broker or attorney, but could be a great check to the agent. Yeah, for sure. So send these to the agents as a check. They can just confirm it with you. You could also create an internal one. So let's just say that you have an internal team one. What I'm going to do in here is I'm going to put team split, and then I'm going to put the code for my bookkeeping next to it. So this way I can send this to my bookkeeper at the end of each transaction, and they're going to have not only the name for us, but they're also going to have the code that they type into QuickBooks to put these totals. Probably automate it in the future, but for right now, basically that's what I'm going to do is put the QuickBooks code and the name. And now it's really easy for my bookkeeper to input all of my checks. Now, if you're an independent TC, you could do the same thing. You could just have one line with your fee, and then you could create some custom thing up here and then put your fee in here. So tons of different ways you can use this. That's why we made it like this. So we made it scalable.
Yeah, just to piggyback, like webhooks combined with this, if you're having your fields back filled based on the commission calculations, makes your webhooks even more valuable to be able to send that data out of the system. So
yeah, that's going to be crazy.
good combo feature.
That's going to be super crazy because now you could put it over to a Google Sheet that goes to QuickBooks, or you could just have it go straight to QuickBooks, or however you want to set it up, however is easiest for you guys. But now you could have this field data. So you could have this sync back to a field, that field sync to whatever program you want. And now you could do some really advanced level stuff without having to, like I do right now. I send each individual thing to my bookkeeper. I shouldn't, I just haven't spent enough time to automate that process, but that would be great to just take these totals, automate it, throw over to the QuickBooks. And now my bookkeeper has, a fifth of the work that he used to, or a tenth of the work even. Okay, so let's look at reporting real quick. Reporting, again, super scalable. You're going to grab the agents you want to have on the chart. You're going to be able to have as many of these pages as you want. Okay, so each of these things, so this is contract status. That's the one I have here, but I could create a new chart called commission totals. Okay, and as long as I have a field with data in it, it can pull from any field. Okay. So once I create this, now I have commission totals here. I don't have anything on it yet. So I go to my widget, I grab my fields I want in there. So I'm going to go down and look for my commission fields. And I don't know how built out this demo account probably has very minimal stuff in the commissions, but we'll try it. But GCI, agent split, broker split, blah, blah, blah. Okay, let's just grab a bunch of these. So what it's doing is it's creating a widget. Each time I grab one of these, it's creating a separate widget. And when you come in here, it's going to say build report. Any changes you make, you hit build report. And now it's looking for the data. Well, we need to first of all create which agents we want this to. So we'll go Brian Griffin and we'll go Peter Gregory. And then we will go users. Let's grab Adam and Stewie. I think those are the two we use the most. And then when I hit this, again, it's going to say build report because we changed. And I want Brian to be red, and I want Adam to be this weird color, and make Stewie green. Okay, so now you can come in here and say, do I want 2022 data, 21? How do I want to segment this up? I want it by the dollar amount. Do I want it to be a line or do I want it to be a bar chart? Do I want it to be from the created date, buyer side commission, dollars? That's my field. This is my field name. And so you can see this is my listing side. Let's just go ahead and change this to a bar as well. And you can see the different people and how much commission for each month. And you can create, commission reductions. I had 701 commission reduction, which obviously that's not true, but, and you can create whatever you want. And so now if I want to switch back over, I'm like, I'm done analyzing commissions. I want contract status. I just hit that. And now I have all these built over here. So pretty powerful, super scalable. Again, we made these as flexible as humanly possible so that you guys could use them in whatever capacity you want. And then we'll take suggestions, as you guys get in here and start working with it. If you have little things here and here, like, hey, it would be great if we just had this one other little option here. If you could just tweak this a little bit, that's what we'll be doing probably over the next 6 months, is just kind of maintaining and tweaking the system and the stuff we currently have to make it even better. Okay. So that's commissions and reporting. Any comments, initial comments on that? Love to hear some comments on that. Everyone's super quiet today. Anything else, Jana, you want to talk about on reporting?
No, I think it's kind of the perspective of being able to analyze your data. There's a lot of power in that. So you can have it commissions based, you can have it volume based, you can have it based on, like you're showing there with reductions or certain things in your contract. Also think of it like if you're tracking a lead source for your listings and your sales, that's another report that you guys can create here. And it's really valuable to show where you're spending most of your time for your contract to close period, your listing period. So this is going to be a pretty big deal for just being able to take what you're doing in your transaction management and actually seeing what that looks like big picture wise. So.
Yep. Perfect. Okay. Well, if there's no other questions, we'll go ahead and end this. Same time, same place next week. Nope, I'm sorry. It's not, that's a lie. We will be at FoCon next week. I will not be doing this, and we're not going to have any of the team members doing this because they're going to be all hands on deck while the leadership team is in Las Vegas. So we're going to skip next week. We will delete the reminder on Facebook, and we will pick up in 2 weeks from now. If you guys have questions in the meantime, just get them over to support, and yeah, we'll go from there. But appreciate, as always, everyone attending. And if anyone has any follow-up questions, just go ahead and send them to support, and we'll dig in with you. Have a great day, guys.